excited for the 20th Party Congress?
Yeah, the one that starts yesterday.
Yes, we are recording this on Friday before it is happening. But hey, it's 2 weeks of nonstop inter-party action.
In a black box. Or should we say a red box?
Ooh.
But we don't know what's happening. Exactly.
I mean, we don't know because it's Friday.
I don't know.
I know, but this is coming out on Monday, so you're watching this on Monday.
This is something in the air.
We probably
like the
still don't
leaves
know
are
what's
changing
happening on
colors.
The smog fills the sky.
No. There's no smog for the Party Congress, Matt.
Probably not.
Yeah, fortunately, zero COVID has gotten rid of China's economy. So,
well, I mean, also they, their traditional thing is to like shut down factories and make sure that nothing will. They do this twice a year, once for the Party Congress in the fall, right, and once for the two meetings in the spring.
Right. And what's good is that so far this past week in Beijing, absolutely nothing has gone wrong.
We'll get to that in a second. But first, I think we want to, ahead of the Party Congress, Xi Jinping is really kind of pushing the just very subtle propaganda. It's like you might not even notice it's propaganda unless you really are paying attention. But did you know that Xi Jinping, he understands the ethnics?
Is that the cue to roll the propaganda?
Roll the propaganda.
The elderly, the young, the underprivileged, ethnic groups. In order to care for them, we first need to understand them. There is a man who understands and cares for the people. No matter how much time it takes or how far distant, he will be there with those in need. From rural areas in central China to an earthquake-stricken region, from the cold days of winter to the sunny spring, nothing deters him from coming together with people and understanding their needs. He learned sign language so that he could communicate with handicapped teens. Sitting on a worn-out mattress, he chatted with an 80-year-old man about how to fight poverty. At the border, he stood together with soldiers on duty. In an ethnic home, he shared happiness and life stories with local folks. Along the way, he has made up his mind on what needs to be done. From helping tens of millions out of poverty, to addressing the challenges posed by nature, to making one landmark accomplishment after another. He cares for China's 1.4 billion people and their future. He understands and trusts the people. He is, in turn, understood and trusted. That's why Xi Jinping spends so much time among them.
江山就是人民，人民就是江山。
Yes, gosh, if only people could somehow understand ethnics. Fortunately, Xi Jinping has successfully studied them and spent time among them and understands them.
It's so weirdly tone deaf. It just gives me this weird feeling inside.
That's patriotism, Matt. Or gas.
Yeah. You gotta love at the end when the music starts to swell and it's like, yes, he understands and trusts the people.
One man.
I did think it was interesting, the part where it's like, he has lifted tens of millions of people out of poverty. And so that's kind of a weird propaganda line because, the party has claimed for a while now that it's lifted so many people out of poverty. Is like each successive leader going to like take credit for being the one to lift people out of poverty?
Well, no, this is brilliant. See, so the Communist Party lifted, Deng Xiaoping lifted a lot of people out of poverty, right? Because Mao put them in poverty, but ignore that part. And then, Jiang Zemin was able to lift his group out of poverty, and forget about Hu Jintao, Xi Jinping. And so what's going to happen, the idea is that you got to keep some people in poverty always, so that each successive leader can lift more and more of them out of poverty.
But Xi Jinping has already declared that they've won the war on poverty.
Yeah, but all they did was change the definition of poverty.
Oh, that's not the only thing. But yeah.
It's now, what's the term they use? It's like low income. So
Xi Jinping's goal to create a moderately prosperous society.
Yes.
So such ambition. Hey, considering zero COVID, it like moderately prosperous is really reaching now.
I mean, but there's the whole COVID economy.
That's true. That's how much did they say? Like 100 million people taking a test every couple of days
it was
would be
900 million people or something taking doses 3 times a week.
You mean tests?
Tests. I mean, yeah. So that would cost $100 billion.
Yeah, I think that's what it.
Right. And so
each year?
Yeah. And so that money is, of course, money spent by the Chinese government from, that comes in lieu of other things they'd be spending it on. And that money is going to, the COVID testing companies and all the different ways that whole process gets played out.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people who are enforcing the zero COVID policy are actually migrant workers. We've talked about this before.
They're the ethnics.
You don't have to be an ethnic to be a migrant worker.
That's true, because you can be like a migrant in your own country, which we don't really have that concept so much in the US. Like me, I was born in California and now I live in New York, but I'm not really a migrant in any meaningful way, because I still have equal access to everything in New York as a resident that I did in California.
From Xi Jinping's perspective, you would be an ethnic.
That might be true, with my blonde hair and blue eyes. Yeah, but my point is that you can be, because of the hukou system in China, you can be from, say, Gansu province, and you move to Shanghai to get a job.
Is anyone from the Gansu province?
I've never met anyone from Gansu.
Me neither.
But the point is then you don't have access to all the public services. Your kids can't go to the public schools.
Yeah, that's an urban rural thing too. If you have a rural hukou, you cannot move to a city and get healthcare or public education or anything.
The rural hukou.
Yeah.
Tricky thing to say.
Yeah.
People talk about the rural-urban divide in the United States, but that's only a sort of political thing. But in China, it's actually you can't just become urban. You can't just do that without.
Even if you sag your pants a bit?
No, Chris.
Well, this is an interesting thing, because there was a big, Mao sent people to the countryside, but then there was a big push under Xi Jinping to get people into the cities.
Right.
And now that's not working because, you can't state plan these kind of things. And so now they're again trying to get people back to the countryside. Back and forth.
They only want certain people in the cities.
Right. And I think part of the problem with people living in the countryside is that the economy is different. So if you, for example, live on the land and you and your neighbors are getting some portion of your food or sustenance or, work through trade relationships, it's not really contributing to GDP. And that's really problematic. And it's even more so with, for example, some of the ethnics, as Xi Jinping would call them, like people who live in the Tibetan plateau who are traditionally herders. They've been brought into the cities to work in factories because that contributes to GDP and that lifts people out of poverty.
Yeah, they basically are all right, you cannot do, you cannot have your nomadic herding lifestyle. We'll put you in these apartment blocks.
Right. And it's this idea that everything has to be for the betterment of the country, although it's actually the party. But there's so little respect for individual rights. There's basically, Like, it's just not even a factor that you could have any individuality.
Did we watch the same video about Xi Jinping? Because I got an entirely different take from it.
What was your take, Chris?
I mean, he understands the people and he's helping them. He's among them.
I mean, this is mild compared to the Chinese language propaganda that's going on, I have to say.
That's a good point, that this is obviously, it's weird, like this is geared towards a Western audience that's in English, but...
I mean, I don't know if it's geared toward a Western audience
Well,
or
that's
if they
the
just
thing.
have to produce some propaganda in English. But yeah, it is. This is just like, so we watched a 2-minute video that's this kind of stuff. There is currently, or in the 2 weeks leading up to the Party Congress, there is a 16-episode series being broadcast on CCTV called The Navigator. It was like a primetime television documentary about Xi Jinping and the Communist Party and how great everything has been over the last 10 years of CCP rule. And if you thought this 2-minute thing was like
Heavy-handed.
unwatchable and heavy-handed, you have no. Yeah, it is just like, I cannot describe to you the emotionality of the narrator. You've heard that type of like Chinese narration before, right? Where it's just like so overly emotional.
Like a
and
soap opera?
Kind of, yeah. It is very, but like in a very like laudatory way, like, oh, he's the leader of the country and only one man could like
This is
yeah.
sounding like erotic propaganda.
Okay,
fan
well,
fiction.
I'm probably not doing it that well, but you know, it is just that type of like overly effusive stuff, and you know, 16 episodes of this. And also I noticed some nice subtle propaganda. I only watched part of one of the episodes because
There's
you know,
so much you can take.
yeah, there's a part of it where it talks about in this chaotic world, and then it shows like the EU protests and then it shows like protests in the US, and it's like, and then it was like, oh, you know, only the leadership of the party is bringing stability to China. It was that kind of idea,
Yeah.
right? And then
Cute footage of Uyghurs being blindfolded and loaded onto trains.
no, it's the happy dancing Uyghurs, Matt.
Oh, sorry.
The
Oops,
ones
wrong
working in
clip.
factories that are producing stuff for GDP. And also the whole thing starts with like a little girl's voice singing "I love you, China." And then it's just like these sweeping images of China, and then a spacewalk, and then like a giant hammer and sickle on like a waving red background. It's a lot.